Slaves of war, the hidden engine behind ancient wealth. The Battle of Pydna, 168 BCE. In less than 1 hour, the Roman legions obliterated the Macedonian phalanx. 20,000 enemy soldiers lay dead or dying. But the true conquest was only beginning. Within days, 150,000 people, soldiers, civilians, entire families, were rounded up from the surrounding region. They disappeared into the slave markets of the Mediterranean. One battle. 150,000 lives erased and rewritten. This wasn't cruelty for its own sake. This was economics. This was the machinery that built empires. We look back at ancient civilizations and see monuments, temples, roads stretching across continents. But we rarely ask the uncomfortable question, who built them? The answer is written in chains. Every major ancient power, from Mesopotamia to Rome, ran on an economic engine that modern economies would find unthinkable: mass enslavement. War wasn't just about territory, it was about inventory, human inventory. When Rome conquered Gaul, Julius Caesar enslaved an estimated 1 million people. When Alexander the Great sacked Thebes, 30,000 people were sold into slavery. When Assyrian armies swept through the Near East, entire populations were relocated and forced into labor. This was the business model of antiquity. Victory meant more than glory. It meant an instant labor force. No wages to pay, no rights to respect, just bodies to exploit. The agricultural empire. Agriculture was the foundation of ancient wealth, and agriculture ran on slavery. In ancient Rome at its height, estimates suggest that 1 in 3 people in Italy were enslaved. In some regions, the ratio was even higher. The Roman latifundia, massive plantation estates, produced olive oil, wine, and grain on an industrial scale. These weren't small family farms. These were agribusiness operations, powered entirely by enslaved labor. The wealthy elite owned estates worked by hundreds, sometimes thousands of slaves. They calculated profit margins just like any modern corporation, except their labor costs were nearly zero. Food, minimal shelter, and the threat of violence. That was the total investment. This agricultural output didn't just feed Rome. It was traded across the Mediterranean, generating enormous fortunes. The aristocratic families who controlled these estates became the richest people in the ancient world. Greece operated on the same model. In Athens, even modest citizens owned enslaved people. Wealthy Athenians might own dozens, deployed across farms, workshops, and mines. The democracy we celebrate, the philosophy, the art, was built on a foundation of forced labor. Enslaved people weren't just in the fields. They were in every sector of the economy. The mines of death. But if you truly want to understand the brutality of ancient slavery, you need to go underground. The mines were death sentences. The silver mines at Laurion, near Athens, produced the wealth that funded Greek civilization. The Athenian navy, the temples, the cultural golden age, all of it was paid for with silver extracted by enslaved workers. Tens of thousands labored in these mines. They worked in shafts barely wide enough to crawl through, breathing toxic dust, in constant danger of collapse. Life expectancy was measured in years, sometimes months. Rome's mines in Spain were even larger. The gold and silver mines of Hispania employed up to 40,000 enslaved workers at a time. Roman writers described them as places of unspeakable suffering. The historian Diodorus Siculus wrote that enslaved miners had no rest or respite from their toil. Many died in the tunnels. Their bodies were simply left where they fell. but the output was staggering. These mines produced the precious metals that became Roman currency, funding military expansion, construction projects, and the lifestyles of the elite. The human cost was irrelevant. Only the metal mattered. Building empires in stone. The monuments that still define these civilizations, the roads, aqueducts, amphitheaters, were built by enslaved hands. After the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE, Jewish captives were forced to build the Colosseum. Tens of thousands of prisoners of war became construction laborers. The aqueducts that brought water to Roman cities, the roads that connected the empire, these engineering marvels were constructed through forced labor. Further back in time, Mesopotamian city-states used enslaved labor to build their temple complexes and irrigation systems. The ziggurats that towered over ancient Sumer were built brick by workers who had no choice. Even the Parthenon, symbol of Athenian achievement, was built partially through enslaved labor. While skilled craftsmen were paid, much of the heavy work was done by slaves. We see these structures as testaments to human achievement, and they are, but they're also monuments to human suffering, built by people whose names we will never know, whose stories were never recorded. The economic trap. Slavery didn't just provide labor, it warped entire economies. A massive slave trade emerged. Delos, a small Greek island, became one of the largest slave markets in the Mediterranean, reportedly capable of processing 10,000 people per day. Pirates and merchants specialized in capturing and selling people. Entire regions were depopulated by slave raids. But there was another consequence. Free farmers couldn't compete. When wealthy landowners could deploy hundreds of unpaid workers, small family farms were driven out of business. In Rome, this created a landless urban poor, people who had lost their farms to massive slave-operated estates. This economic inequality contributed to social instability that would eventually tear the Republic apart. The enslaved population occasionally fought back. The revolt led by Spartacus in 73 BCE involved 120,000 escaped slaves. Rome crushed the rebellion and crucified 6,000 survivors along the Appian Way as a warning. The message was clear: resist, and this is your fate. Today we visit these ruins as tourists. We marvel at the engineering, the artistry, the ambition. But every stone was laid by someone. Every road was paved by hands that belonged to human beings who had no freedom, no future, no hope. Ancient slavery wasn't a footnote. It was the economic engine, the hidden machinery behind every great achievement of the classical world. Modern archaeology is beginning to tell these stories, finding the quarters where enslaved people lived, the tools they used, the evidence of their existence. We can't undo this history, but we can be honest about it. When we look at the wealth of ancient civilizations, we need to ask, wealth for whom? Built by whom? At what cost? The glory of empires was built on chains. That's the truth we need to remember.